Have you ever stopped to think about what physiotherapy looks like outside of your own town or country? It's a field that literally helps millions of people move and live better. But how it's practiced, what it costs, and who can even get it, well, that changes dramatically depending on where you are in the world. We're about to dive into the data and see what's really going on. Let's just start with a number. 2.41 billion. Just let that sink in for a second. That's how many people around the globe right now have conditions that could get better with rehabilitation, like physiotherapy. It's a massive, almost unbelievable figure. And here's what that actually means in human terms. A huge study in The Lancet back in 2020 put it this way: 1 in every 3 people on the planet could benefit from rehab. This isn't some niche medical specialty we're talking about. It's a fundamental part of staying healthy and functional for a huge chunk of humanity. Okay, so to wrap our heads around this giant topic, here's our plan. We'll start with that global need, then we're going to zoom right in on the professionals themselves. After that, we'll tackle a really tricky conflict between education and practice, look at the wild differences in cost, figure out what the best care actually looks like, and then we'll look ahead to the future. So let's kick things off with that demand. The need for rehab isn't just big, it's getting bigger fast. It's jumped 63% since 1990 alone. A big reason for this is that we're all living longer and we're surviving things, illnesses, accidents, that we might not have in the past. And that's great, but it means more people need help getting back on their feet. So with this skyrocketing demand, who are the people actually doing this work? To get a feel for the folks on the ground, we're not going to stay at 30,000 feet. Instead, we're going to zoom in on one country for a case study: Cyprus. By using some great data from World Physiotherapy, we can get a really clear snapshot of what the profession looks like in this one specific part of the world. So, first up, as of 2024, the total number of practicing physiotherapists in the entire country is just 1,300. Now, what does that number actually mean for the average person? Well, it breaks down to about 9.5 physios for every 10,000 people. That's a super important stat because it tells you a lot about how easy or hard it is to actually get an appointment. And if we look at who these professionals are, we find that 43% of them are female. And that's an interesting detail because that gender balance can look really different depending on the country you're in. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, putting that number in context. At just under 10, Cyprus is right there with the UK. But then, look at Belgium. Over 35 physios for every 10,000 people. That's more than 3 times the rate. It just goes to show you the huge gaps in the workforce, even within a place like Europe. And that idea of workforce brings us to one of the biggest, most fundamental challenges facing physiotherapy today. And it's this weird disconnect between what physiotherapists learn in school and what the law actually lets them do. So to get this, you need to know this key term, direct access. It's really simple. It just means you, as a patient, can go straight to a physio when your back hurts. You don't need to see a doctor first to get a referral. It's a huge deal when we talk about professional autonomy. So you'd probably assume direct access is the standard everywhere, right? Wrong. A 2025 study delivered a pretty shocking result. In 70% of European countries, we're talking 7 out of 10, physiotherapists are legally not allowed to be that first person you see. And here is the paradox at the heart of it all. On one hand, universities are training physiotherapists to be these independent first contact health professionals. They learn how to diagnose and manage patients all on their own. But on the other hand, in most of those same countries, the law steps in and says, nope, you can't actually do that. You know, this whole issue of access is directly tied to our next big topic. What does this all cost? Because when the rules are different everywhere, the prices can be all over the map. So let's take a look at the price tag for just one session. And wow, this chart really tells this story, doesn't it? In the US, if you're paying out of pocket, a single visit could set you back anywhere from $75 to $200. But hop over to France, where the prices are regulated by the government, and you're looking at $15 to $46. Go to Pakistan, and it could be as low as $2. It's pretty clear that where you happen to live completely changes whether you can afford to get care. So we've got these wild differences in cost, huge gaps in access. How in the world is a patient supposed to know if they're getting good, high-quality care? Let's tackle that and try to find the gold standard for quality.
A big part of the answer comes down to something called accreditation. There's this organization, CARF International. It stands for the Commission on Accreditation of Rehabilitation Facilities, and they're basically seen as the global benchmark for what excellent care looks like.
Just how important is this? Well, get this. U.S. News and World Report ranks the top 50 rehab hospitals in the country. A mind-blowing 47 of them have programs accredited by CARF. That is not a coincidence. It's a clear signal that they're committed to being the best. So when you see that CARF seal, what does it actually mean for you? It means that place is all about putting you, the patient, first. It means they use treatments that are backed by science, not just guesses. They actually track their results to make sure patients are getting better. They're always trying to improve, and they have super strict safety rules. It's basically a guarantee of quality. Okay, let's pull all of these different pieces together. We've talked about the massive need, the people doing the work, the legal hurdles, the costs, and the markers of quality. So, what does it all mean for the future of rehabilitation? If you remember just 3 things from all this, make it these. First, the need is gigantic, and it's only growing. Second, we've got to fix that mismatch between education on the law to get patients better access. And third, in a really confusing global market, standards like CARF are your best guide to finding quality care. And that leaves us with one final huge question. We know the demand is exploding. We know what top-tier care looks like. The real challenge for all of us moving forward is how do we build a bridge between those two things? How do we make sure that every single one of those 2.41 billion people can get the affordable, high-quality care they need to live a full life?